The story begins with an old man's journal chronicling the arrival of a stranger in his village. He notices a haunting look in the stranger's eyes, hinting at some unspeakable horror he has endured. Despite his suspicions, the stranger is welcomed by the elderly villagers, but the journal's author, a young man at the time, decides to keep his distance. While the other villagers are curious about the stranger, the young author remains unfriendly. As days turn into weeks, the stranger spends his time swinging a sword, catching the attention of the village children. Though the young author remains detached, the villagers are captivated by the stranger's presence and speculate about his past. Months go by with the stranger's routine remaining unchanged, and various tales about him continue to circulate. After half a year of hearing these stories, the young author's curiosity gets the best of him, and he decides to see the stranger for himself. However, when he witnesses the stranger's lackluster sword skills, his disappointment overshadows his intrigue. Nevertheless, life goes on, and the young author matures into a man, marries a girl named Rima, and becomes a father to a daughter named Laura. Despite his successes and contentment, the young author's thoughts often drift back to the stranger who still relentlessly swings his sword. Seasons and years pass, but the stranger persists, becoming a fixed enigma in the author's mind. Time marches on, and the author becomes a grandfather, leading the village as its chief. One day, he stumbles upon the familiar spot and is shocked to find that the man, after 37 years of relentless swinging, has finally stopped, frozen in death with a fierce expression. Overwhelmed by the sight, the old chief rushes inside and gently lays the man's body down, closing his eyes with a heartfelt wish for the stranger to find peace. As the old chief's own life fades, the scene shifts to a young boy waking up, questioning the reality of the story. This new character is in Pereira Estate, a region known for being subservient to other kingdoms. The story introduces the family of Baron Pereira with Lady Carol, who has earned the title of Enchantress at just 11, and the older brother Aaron, known as the deadbeat noble, due to his reclusive nature. The tale explores Aaron's struggles with the past trauma that led him to shut himself off from the world, contrasting his demeanor with the accomplishments of his sister and stepmother. The chapter ends with Aaron's restlessness after experiencing the vivid dream and his desire to swing his sword, prompting his guardian to react with surprise. At the Pereira family training ground, everyone watches with eager anticipation as they discuss the confirmation of the rumors. The object of their interest is Aaron, who just showed up. Seeing the lazy young master out of his room is already a big shock, so most people assume that he will probably leave after looking around. As Aaron is glancing at the swords, his caretaker tells him that every sword is different depending on their weight and size, and asks him to wait until he can find him a master swordsman. But Aaron informs him that there is no need and goes to grab the biggest sword. Seeing him pick up a weapon, the onlookers are in disbelief. Regardless, everyone glances curiously as he holds up the sword. He tries to swing the sword, but his movements are clumsy. However, this is very surprising to the two men watching him because the boy has spent his life lazing around and sleeping in his room. One of them wonders what made the young master suddenly want to train, so the other one expresses that it is probably because of the incident that happened last month in which the son of Garin territory embarrassed him while Aaron was powerless to do anything. Having watched enough, they both decide to leave. They make fun of Aaron as one of them bets that he won't even last 3 days, while the other one expresses that even 30 minutes would be a miracle. His caretaker is infuriated hearing all this but decides to focus on the young master for the time being. He tells him that although swordsmanship is a fundamental art, it will be difficult to train on his own, and once again offers to find a mentor. However, we see that the boy is too immersed to pay attention to anything else. He can feel the weight of the sword with every swing as his weak body screams in pain. But despite this, he can't help but keep going. He feels a sense of ease and relaxation, trying to mimic what he saw in his dream. He feels all his burdens, problems, and regrets fading away with every swing. This strange phenomenon makes Aaron unable to stop. Suddenly, his caretaker grabs him, telling him to stop as he has been at it for so long that even the sun is about to set. Hearing this, the boy is surprised, but the fatigue in his body is a clear sign that he pushed himself too hard. As his caretaker holds him, Aaron expresses that he should have just left or called him instead of waiting so long, but the man responds he couldn't lead his master and tried to get his attention multiple times, though Aaron seemed completely detached. Regardless, he tells him to not push himself so hard the next time, but Aaron isn't sure there will be a next time. After returning to his room, he goes straight to bed, but his body is sore. He feels the pain won't let him sleep tonight, but we see that was an uneasy concern as he falls asleep only 5 minutes later. A few days pass by and he is eating breakfast. His custodian asks him if he will be going to the training ground today, just like before. Aaron responds affirmatively while munching down on his food. We learn that he has been swinging his sword every day after that dream, even though he doesn't understand why he is doing it. But he knows this much, that every time he swings the sword all his worries and thoughts go away. Still considering that it is only helping him, he focuses on eating more as he will need the strength later. Meanwhile, at the gate, we see a few guards talking about who will win today. As they argue about it, they are suddenly approached by an old man asking for directions to the training ground. Upon being asked to identify himself, he politely introduces himself as a wandering knight who simply wishes to catch a glimpse of the training area before continuing on his way. He adds that he was given permission to do so and should have the permit somewhere. But the guards tell him there is no need, as they were also headed there after completing their shift. As they all arrive at the gate, one of the guards opens the door to the training grounds. To his surprise, he notices Aaron, who still hasn't quit. Seeing this, the other guard jumps with joy, asking for the bet money as it is already the 4th day. The big dude pays up, honoring his promise, but he still can't believe the lazy prince is at it. His friend confesses that he will probably last another week because of the embarrassment he faced by the son of Lord Garrison. The big dude gets angry as he didn't know that, and they both start arguing. Meanwhile, the old man can't help but take interest in Aaron, as it doesn't look like he is here to just pass the time. Judging by his form and swing, it's clear that Aaron lacks both stamina and strength to wield that sword. Regardless, the old man wonders how long he will last, especially if he started because of such petty reasons. Abruptly, a powerful gust of wind diverts everyone's gaze, drawing their eyes skyward. As they glance upward, they see Kirill Pereira riding upon the back of a majestic griffin. The griffin is a legendary animal with a lion's body, an eagle's head, and a skin as thick as steel. The animal is not supposed to exist in reality, which is why everyone is left stunned seeing the beast. However, this is possible because Kirill Pereira is an enchantress who can make her creations move by putting energy into them. She unexpectedly starts pointing toward the guards who were supposed to be on duty. While she scolds them, one of them speaks up, expressing that they finished their duty and switched positions with the afternoon workers. Kirill isn't interested in hearing anything and gets even more infuriated as the guard interrupts her. Her shouting causes Aaron to come over and ask what is going on. She suddenly goes silent, and after a moment of hesitation asks Aaron to quit. He is confused by what she means, so she clarifies, telling him to stop doing stupid things. However, he ignores her words and goes right back to swinging his sword. Upon witnessing this, she shouts at Aaron, questioning whether he thinks that swordsmanship is so easy that he can simply begin now after apparently wasting all his time until this moment. She goes on to express that aimlessly swinging a sword wouldn't make any difference, as even a rookie guard is better than him. As she inquires about the reason behind this sudden change, their mother shows up, telling Kirill to stop bothering her brother. She tries to argue back, but is unable to. She leaves with Kirill after advising Irene to not push himself too much. The guards are relieved that she is gone. The old man smiled as the little girl was just like a storm. However, he is more impressed by how Aaron didn't lose his focus despite everything going around. Because of this, he decides to keep an eye on the boy for a few more days. At night, we see Kirill trying to sneak into Aaron's room but gets caught by his caretaker. She tells him that she has business with him and intimidates the man to keep quiet by using magic. He is unable to defy the little lady and falls to his knees. The next day, Aaron wakes up to a doll playing flute. He notices the letter right beside it, which is from Kirill. In it, she apologizes for her behavior the day before and informs him that the doll is a gift from her and might be of some help to him. Finally, she asks him to keep this a secret from their mother, but it seems like she already knows about the letter as she wrote on the back of it. Aaron feels blessed to have them both caring so much for him, even though he wasted 10 years of his life doing nothing. The caretaker comes with his food, but Aaron decides to eat with the family. This is very surprising for him, and he wonders if the young master has truly changed. At the dinner table, Aaron thanks his family for always taking care of him, although he does nothing but lay around. He apologizes for all the trouble he has given them and lets them know that he loves them. His father assures him of his love, emphasizing that there is no need for apologies. While they eat, he asks Aaron about his swordsmanship training, telling him to not overwork himself. However, Aaron responds that he is not, and he feels fine. This is because the training he is doing is nothing compared to what he did in his dreams. Once again, a few more people are at the training ground, seeing Aaron train as it has already been 15 days. They are impressed by how he didn't miss a single day and wonder if the young master has truly changed. Putting that aside for a bit, they talk about the old man who has been showing up every day to spectate even though they don't understand what he is watching. Meanwhile, the old man has been watching the boy for 10 days. He realizes that his assumption that the boy's actions were driven by pride was incorrect. Still, even he has heard the rumors about the deadbeat noble who lives his life lazing around, and wonders how he is able to go on without showing any signs of dislike. The boy's conviction is mind-boggling for the old man, as even throughout his own life, the man has never seen someone with such willpower. He is amazed by how a 15-year-old boy has a steel will, which is a thing that only comes with age, no matter how great a person someone is. He contemplates how high the boy can go if he trains under the right mentor. With that thought, the elderly asks caretaker Yunban if the young noble is getting swordsmanship training. He lets the man know that Aaron was supposed to get the lessons, but as of yet has been practicing on his own. When asked, Yunban begins to inform him that the boy's master would be Knight Oranjuker. However, before he can finish his sentence, the man exclaims, "No." This is because he can't fathom someone who drank excessively and yelled at soldiers being the mentor of a talented individual like Aaron. Not wanting to lose Aaron, he decides to meet the lord of the house. Upon meeting the boy's father, he tells him about the potential his son possesses. The lord is surprised to learn this, but is still not sure about the recommendation letter to the Chrono Swordsmanship School. This is because it is the continent's best school for swordsmanship that teaches only talented individuals regardless of their nationality, gender, or status. The school's better reputation than the Royal Academy leaves him pondering whether Aaron would successfully gain entry and thrive within its walls. He talks directly to his son about it, letting him know about the struggles he might face if he decides to go. Aaron asks for some time to think. While sitting in his room, he wonders if he can do well at school, especially when he spent 10 years doing nothing. Regardless of his worries, he decides to give it a shot for himself and his supportive family. With this determination, he goes to his father and lets him know that he will do it. After everything is decided, the day of his departure arrives and Aaron bids his family farewell. On the way to the school, he is accompanied by his caretaker. He gives his master the pendant Kirill entrusted to him. Aaron wears it around his neck, feeling grateful. Finally, they arrive at the academy and are mesmerized by its size. Aaron's caretaker offers to take him to the entrance, but he refuses, expressing that now he is just a trainee and needs to do things on his own. This brings tears to his eyes as he's finally seen his young master grow up. He leaves with a promise to return, and the caretaker wishes him good results. At the entrance, he has to wait as a noble kid's guards introduce him as Bart Lloyd, who hails from the esteemed Lloyd family and has a recommendation from a famous knight named Sir Colesway. The gatekeepers warmly welcome him, and he enters. With him gone inside, Aaron introduces himself, showing the recommendation from Sir Somerville, a wandering knight. They recognize the boy as he belongs to the Pereira family. However, before letting him in, the guard informs him that he will surely pass, as Sir Brian Somerville is pretty famous for being at the lead in the mine conquest battle for decades. Aaron thanks him for the encouragement and goes in. With him gone, the guard talks about how unusual it is for that old man to recommend someone, especially the deadbeat noble. Upon opening the door to the testing area, the boy is met with glares from the other students, but he tries to remain calm. He recognizes the guard he just saw standing at the podium. The man introduces himself as the person who will evaluate and teach them. While standing up there, he recognized a few noteworthy faces. Among them, the most outstanding is Ilya Lindsay, who is also known as the second genius, but according to the rumors, she is even more talented than her brother. Bart doesn't look happy with her being there. Meanwhile, the instructor tells them they are just preliminary trainees for now and will have to pass 2 assessment tests to secure their position at the school for a year. He further adds that they will keep the title of preliminary trainees until that period ends, though it won't get any easier after. With that said, he notifies them to leave their belongings and come outside. With everyone out, he lets them know they are at a running course used to build endurance. Suddenly, he starts the fitness test, telling everyone to run. As the students try to keep up, he increases the pace. Bart checks up on Aaron, and to his delight, the deadbeat is on the ground, staying true to his nickname. Aaron feels like his heart is about to burst, and he is unable to move as the distance between him and the other increases. However, he musters up the willpower to start running once again, shocking Bart. This is because this training is nothing compared to the man in his dream. With a determination to become like him, Aaron gives his best as he doesn't want to keep being a deadbeat. The other guard we saw at the gate is also there. He is surprised by how Aaron didn't give up. However, seeing the boy, he can tell that he is not in a good condition. The guard quickly catches Aaron, who falls over and faints after having exhausted his body to the limit. When he wakes up, he finds himself on a bed. A man named Instructor Run Tarhal informs him that he is in charge of the recovery room, adding that he doesn't have to worry about his body as it is completely fine. Aaron expresses gratitude to the instructor, who spontaneously begins to boast about his skills that led to Aaron's swift recovery. He playfully remarks to the boy that they might cross paths frequently in the future, before handing over a paper containing the test rankings. He lets Aaron know that this won't affect the formal admission, and was just a way to test the trainee's abilities. Observing the boy, he realizes he is in the last position on the ranking list. The instructor reassures him, saying there's no need to worry as things will improve within a year. Surprisingly, the boy doesn't seem too disheartened. Despite it being the first day, the instructor asks Aaron to quickly join the class. At the first class, the teacher introduces himself as Karaka. He shows the schedule, informing them that they will be following this unless it is changed. He lets them know that they can also use the facilities in their own time. Aaron is pretty excited, hearing this, as he can train with his sword, but is disappointed as the instructor adds that weapon training is forbidden. After class, we see Lloyd and his lackeys talking about how they found some of the classes boring as they arrive at the gym. Looking around the facility, Lloyd suddenly spots Ilya Lindsay. He's immediately taken aback by her presence as he feels the rumors he heard about her don't do her justice. Being around her, he feels a sense of inferiority as she is on a different level than him. However, he is not alone. The other guys also can't believe how absurdly strong she is. Suddenly, one of them notices Aaron, who is struggling to lift a weightless metal rod. They laugh at him for always trying so hard when he wasted 15 years doing nothing. While Aaron continues to struggle, Ilya is done with her exercise. Lloyd tells them to stop wasting their time and decides to leave, but he is once again distracted by another girl named Judith as she beats him to the second place on the test. Lloyd can't help but stare at her as she is quite strong despite being a commander. Regardless, he glares at her, intending to not lose again. Suddenly, Judith turns around agitated and tells him to stop staring. He is taken aback and asks her if she is talking to him. Judith calls him dumb as she is looking right at him. Seeing her speak like this, Lloyd's lackeys jump in, telling her to apologize to the young master. However, it doesn't seem like she intends to, as she asks one of them for having a stinky breath. Before their conversation goes any further, Judith conveys him to shut up while looking at someone. Lloyd also turns around only to be left surprised. This is because Ilya Lindsay is talking to the deadbeat noble. They are unable to hear their conversation but assume strange things when Ilya points something out to Aaron. After this, she walks away, but he is left with a whole bunch of people staring at him. Regardless, he goes back to his training when unexpectedly Judith comes up to him. He doesn't know what she wants and blankly stares at her, infuriating her. She rudely questions him, asking about what he talked about with Ilya. Judith expresses confusion when Aaron informs her that Ilya was merely instructing him on equipment usage. Finding this hard to believe, she questions their relationship, wondering if Ilya is his girlfriend. He clarifies that it was their first encounter. Although initially skeptical, she chooses to believe him and walks away, clearly agitated. With her gone, Aaron gets back to his training but is once again interrupted by someone. This time it's Lloyd, who wants to know about his conversation with both Ilya and Judith. A month passes by and the trainees continue to follow the schedule, still forbidden from using weapons. Lloyd observes from a distance as Ilya assists Aaron with weightlifting. He opts not to dwell on their interaction and instead concentrates on his own training. Realizing he must give his all, he understands he won't be able to surpass Ilya unless he fully commits to his progress. On the other hand, Aaron is a different story, as Lloyd believes that he came here through underhanded means, on top of being a deadbeat who has never worked hard in his life. In addition, he thinks Aaron is just motivated by Ilya's encouragement and the mockery he's facing, and will soon go back to his old ways. Intending to get second place, he heads to the tracks. Upon arriving there, he notices Judith, who is already hard at work. Triggered by her, Lloyd also decides to start running without any rest. His lackeys, however, are still tired from the previous exercises, but he forces them to follow him even if they have to slow down a little. With the students striving for improvement, another 3 months pass by. The instructors are pleased with the students this year, especially the unrivaled trio who continue to train by themselves. The instructor Run Tarhal is also very pleased with Aaron, who's slowly starting to separate himself from his old reputation as a deadbeat noble. With so much time having passed, it's time for the midterm evaluation, so the instructor shows them the test course, informing them that they will have to finish it within the time limit. Many of the students feel it's too difficult, but the instructor assures them that it is all that they have learned in the past 4 months. He adds that the test is just an evaluation and rankings don't matter, but still the top 5 will be awarded to motivate everyone. Having informed them about everything, he announces a 10-day break which will be followed by the test. During this time, there will be no classes, so the students are free to train on their own. Lloyd feels confident about coming in the top 5, with Ilya and Judith being his only competition, but for some reason he feels a sense of unease from Aaron. Meanwhile, at the gym, we see the red-haired girl smiling excitedly as she just set a new personal best in weightlifting. Feeling satisfied, she decides to wrap up for today, but her attention is diverted toward Aaron, who is panting from exhaustion. However, he continues pushing his limits like every other day. This makes Judith agitated, as he is a guy who was rumored to be a deadbeat, and she decides to lift some more. We see the 2 instructors talking about how 30 people are participating this year, which is quite a lot. Their conversation is abruptly interrupted by the arrival of an elderly man, the schoolmaster named Ian. Instructor Karaka, meeting him for the first time, politely introduces himself and expresses his honor at the meeting. But seeing him being so polite, the master questions about how old he looks. Karaka is taken aback but responds that he's 52, flattering the 90-year-old man, who decides to double his salary. Moving on, Master talks about how the students this year look very different from the previous, implying that they have been trained well. Seeing the Master looking at Ilya, Karaka tells him that she is the second genius from the Lindsay family and hasn't lost her first place in any of the tests. However, Master Ian isn't impressed and feels pity for her not being able to choose her own path. He also notices Judith, as the instructors had informed him about how she had recently been overworking herself. Feeling she is wasting her abilities by doing this, the Master goes to talk to her. But we see even he couldn't do anything about her stubbornness, as she an appropriate reason for stopping. Following this, he inquires about Aaron Pereira, who is currently at the gym. Unlike Judith, the Master tells him to not stop Aaron, who has been lifting without rest for 30 minutes. The professors are surprised by this, so the Master explains to them this is because the boy has complete control over the mind of his body. Finally, Aaron is done with his training for the day, unable to even move. While he lies on the bed, he can't help but think about the things that happened in the last few months. The people who used to mock him have suddenly become weirdly conscious of him, and somehow Ilya Lindsay is helping him even though she isn't the type to aid someone out of pity. Thinking about all this gives him a headache, so he goes to sleep. As he drifts into slumber, he finds himself in his bed, a vision of his mother embracing him. Though he knows it's not her, the warmth feels so similar that it tempts him to remain in that comforting embrace forever. However, a sudden sharp sword, gleaming brightly as it slices through the bedding, and the silhouette of a powerful figure compel Aaron toward the light. The place that brought him comfort pleads for him to stay, but aware that he can't linger any longer, Aaron expresses gratitude and moves forward. Suddenly he wakes up, leaving the dream behind. It's finally the day of the test. Everyone is surprised to see Aaron's clothes, which are soaked in sweat. Lloyd's lackey comments on how he is stupid for not resting up before the evaluation. However, Lloyd feels that Judith is in a much worse condition due to overworking the last couple of days. This makes him feel much more confident about getting the second place. Ilya also notices the deadbeat, but it is almost time for the exam. The trainer, Tarhal, explains the rules, telling them that the course will be split into 4 sections, and at each one they will be evaluated by a different instructor. With the explanation out of the way, the test finally begins. The first stage is the push press, and as usual, Ilya is faster than everyone else. Lloyd doesn't feel confident about beating her no matter how much he trains, but the rest of the trainees are no match for him. However, he suddenly notices Aaron, who is going even faster than him. Lloyd is in disbelief and assumes that the deadbeat is once again trying to die from exhaustion. But we see that is not the case, as the boy finishes in the second right after Ilya. Though shocked, everyone decides to ignore him, as one of them shouts that Aaron is just gonna faint. Regardless of everybody's mockery, he focuses on stage 2, the box jumps. Unlike usual, Aaron feels different. He experiences a strange heat coming from his body and doesn't feel like he is overdoing it. He momentarily thinks that he might burn out, but the familiar sensation in his body makes him want to go even faster. With the sudden burst in speed, he finishes the second stage while Lloyd and the others are still stuck on the push press. Hearing the announcement, Judith speeds up, while Aaron is in stage 3, the long distance running. closely trailing behind Ilya. Looking at her from behind, he feels a weird sensation, urging him to try and surpass her. However, before he can do that, he hears someone coming from behind. The person is none other than Judith, who leaves both Ilya and Aaron behind. Not wanting to lose, she sprints at full speed. The thoughts of her struggles plague her mind. Being a commoner, she remembers being discriminated against and getting labeled as brazen just because she got into chrono swordsmanship school. However, knowing how hard she had worked, she gave it her all and got to stage 4, the long-distance swimming. But having pushed her body so much, her muscles start to ache and cramp up. The pain causes her to slow down, giving Ilya the lead once again, although she knows that she overworked herself, but being so close, she feels frustrated. Regardless of her desires, Judith's body stops functioning, and she collapses, slowly sinking into the water. Aaron notices this and decides to save her, even though it means he won't be able to surpass Ilya. Judith can barely speak and asks what he is doing. He responds that they are almost there and pulls her onto the land. He asks her if she is alright, while Professor Kareka rushes in. Leaving her in his care, he refocuses on the race, but the others have already caught up. Judith, barely managing to stay awake, watches Aaron leave, unable to comprehend why he let his chance slip away. The evaluation concludes with many trainees unable to finish, but the instructor lets them know they still have a shot at passing in the second round of evaluation, giving them hope. Both instructors seem happy as a lot more candidates were able to pass the first evaluation. Among them, Karaka finds Aaron Pereira to be the most outstanding as he managed to finish 34th even after saving Judith. The students, on the other hand, find his action stupid, especially Lance, who came in 5th. Lloyd congratulates him on his achievement. He thanks him, expressing that it was only possible due to his guidance. Although Lloyd came in 2nd, he can't ignore Aaron's performance, as he very well knows that both he and Judith would have beaten him if it wasn't for the unexpected circumstances. The next day, Aaron is running on the track training as usual, when suddenly Ilya approaches him. She asks him why he saved Judith, but all he can say in response is that he felt like he had to. Frustrated, Ilya tells him he isn't making any sense, as one of the professors on standby could have saved her. She asks him why he gave up on a reward from the greatest swordmaster for such a reason, especially when he gets mocked and looked down upon by everyone. She informs him that people will persist in treating him this way, and in response, Aaron speaks up, acknowledging that he is aware of how people look down on him and label him as a deadbeat noble. He shares that there was a period when he felt trapped in a swamp, and after remaining there for a considerable time, his own self-pity prevented him from making any effort to escape. However, with the support of his loving family, he managed to break free from that situation. Consequently, as someone who was able to rise with the assistance of others, he couldn't ignore Judith drowning right before his eyes. After listening to his reason, Ilya decides to leave. Before departing, she confirms that Aaron had never wielded a sword until last year. Upon his confirmation, she emphasizes that swordsmanship differs from physical training, with skill being the most crucial element. She points out that his actions yesterday have caused him to miss out on guidance from the swordmaster. As a result, she decides to cease assisting him, even if it means that he becomes a laughingstock. Curious, Aaron asks her why she helped him in the first place. Ilya responds that she isn't entirely certain, but it might be because she didn't like others talking behind his back. With that, she takes her leave. The next day at the announcement, we learn that a total of 113 candidates passed, with 78 of them being from the second evaluation. The instructor calls the top 5 preliminary trainees to the podium, informing them that they will get a private meeting with the swordmaster. Before they go any further, the schoolmaster reminds Professor Tarhal that he forgot someone. Following this, he calls upon trainee number 311 Aaron Pereira, shocking everyone. The schoolmaster addresses everyone, emphasizing how people often forget the important things in their pursuit of achievements. However, he highlights that Aaron's sacrifice the previous day demonstrated that he wasn't one of those individuals. As a result, both the swordmaster and the instructors have unanimously agreed that Aaron deserves a position on the podium. The applause and praise from the crowd make Aaron blush, but not everyone in the room is pleased with his achievements. The first person to meet the swordmaster and the school head is Lloyd. During their conversation, Lloyd realizes how he has been narrow-minded, but the wise old man reassures him that admitting his mistakes comes easily to him. Heeding the swordmaster's advice about learning from others, Lloyd decides to head out. The old man acknowledges the boy's talent despite his occasional pride, and believes he could have even been first if he were in a different year. The second person to speak with the sword master is Ilya, and she boldly asks him for guidance. Impressed by her assertiveness, he advises her to live her own life without being influenced by others. He suggests that she would greatly benefit from returning home and learning her family's sword techniques. However, Ilya ignores this advice and persistently requests his guidance. Unable to dissuade her, he allows her to train in his office. Finally, the last person to approach the sword master is Aaron. The sword master asks him what reward he would like to receive, even suggesting it could be a physical reward. However, Aaron's primary concern is learning how to reconcile with someone. Although he finds the boy's request somewhat ridiculous, Aaron has no one else to turn to for guidance on these matters. The master reassures the boy that it's perfectly fine, understanding that Aaron hasn't had much experience socializing, having spent 15 years in his room. After hearing the full story, the master does his best to guide him, even though it's been a while since he advised someone on matters other than swordsmanship. Still, the old man is a bit surprised about how Ilya tried to befriend him. Moving on, the master tells Aaron that he can't simply consider a few words as a reward and expresses his desire to teach him about the sword. However, Aaron admits that he's not sure what to ask for because he only started practicing with a sword a month before coming to the school. Upon hearing this, the old man addresses Aaron by his name, which makes him nervous, causing him to start apologizing. In an effort to calm him down, the sword master claps loudly, surprising Aaron. He advises the boy not to apologize too often, emphasizing that he is a swordsman and should stand strong. This resonates with Aaron, and he simply responds with a yes. The master decides to postpone Aaron's reward until he is more prepared. He expresses his gratitude for the understanding and then takes his leave. After their conversation, the old man can't help but sense that Aaron is different from the others. Despite being a beginner, there's a peculiar calmness about him, as if he already has a clear goal in mind and is receiving guidance from someone or something beyond the ordinary. The boy reminds him of a child he once knew. She was overwhelmingly talented and confident but had an unpredictable personality. The aura she gave was also different from him, but somehow he still reminds him of her. Meanwhile, Aaron is already back to training. Seeing this, Judith approaches him. Suddenly, she brings up the topic of sword training for the next day, which piques his curiosity. He inquires about what's on her mind. Finally, she musters the courage to express her true intentions and thanks Aaron. However, she also insists on repaying her debt, even though he reassures her that it's unnecessary. She takes it a step further by suggesting that they stick together from now on, leaving Aaron somewhat confused. She chuckles to herself while deciding that they should share meals and engage in sword training together as well. Feeling a bit intimidated by her forwardness, Aaron eventually agrees to her proposal. While leaving, she tells him that Big Sister will be taking care of him from now on, though she is 3 years younger than him. However, despite her weird personality, he doesn't mind the weird sensation. After that, she starts hanging out with Aaron, even sharing music and other activities with him like true friends. Seeing her behave so differently, Lloyd and the others are in disbelief. It is as if she is a whole different person. But for Lloyd, what's even weirder than Judith's behavior is the relationship between Ilya and Aaron, as they seem strangely distant. The instructors arrive and grant the trainees 2 hours to do as they please with their swords. Judith, holding a sword after a long time, swings it around and immediately notices how she can maintain her balance even during aggressive swings. The others also notice their improved swordsmanship from the training. Everyone's attention is suddenly diverted to Aaron as he goes to pick up a sword. Without any hesitation, he stands before a giant sword and picks it up. As he swings it, everyone is amazed. Although he may be a bit rough around the edges, the instructor can see that Aaron is quite close to a standard sword-holding stance. Some assume that he's trying to show off, but even Ilya can't help but watch him closely. Out of the blue, Lloyd walks up to Aaron and challenges him to a duel, leaving everyone shocked. Initially confused, he glances at the swordmaster, who calmly watches him. Sensing the unspoken encouragement, Aaron accepts the challenge. One of the instructors states that formal sword training is necessary before a duel, but Master Ian suggests making an exception this time. He then asks them if they are willing to proceed with the fight. Both of them respond affirmatively, and the duel commences. As Lloyd charges in with a thrust, Aaron looks a bit nervous. However, he is able to somehow block using the long sword. But Lloyd isn't giving him any time to recover and goes for another thrust, which Aaron is barely able to avoid. The duel intensifies as he defends against Lloyd's rapid attacks. Onlookers express surprise at Aaron's endurance, but Judith discerns that Lloyd is merely testing him. His repeated strikes reveal that Eren possesses quick reflexes, but struggles to maintain balance with the sword. Lloyd observes his poor posture and inefficiency, raising doubts about his dedication to swordsmanship. He charges in once again to gauge Eren's power when suddenly he lifts his sword. Lloyd is surprised by the sword coming for him, but he easily dodges it. Having evaded the attack, he notices that Eren still hasn't recovered his stance and strikes his sword away. With that, the deadbeat loses the duel and Lloyd is the victor. After all this ruckus, Instructor Karaka announces that they will be divided into classes according to their swordsmanship test. Ilya, Lloyd, and Judith are put in the class with 7 other people who are at the top. The 35 people after them on the list are put in Class B. As everyone's classes are being decided, Judith tells Eren that she will take care of him. However, all the 54 names in Class C have been called with no mention of his name. This is when the instructor announces that Eren will be in Class F, shocking him. Following the announcement, Judith expresses her anger towards Lloyd Brett, telling Eren that Lloyd was just trying to make himself superior by using him. She advises him to not be discouraged, but he's just staring at her. He suddenly speaks up, telling her to not be angry as it bothers him. Hearing this, Judith becomes flustered. Meanwhile, we see Lloyd lying down in his room. He can't help but remember the moment when Eren swung his sword. This is because he wanted to take on the attack head-on, but ended up dodging it instinctively. However, it wasn't just the swing. Eren as a whole appeared extremely strong to Brett with his sharp expression and focus. This makes Lloyd wonder about his expression when he is swinging a sword. On the other side, we see Eren's trainer is Rune Tarhal. He asks the boy if he knows any other moves besides vertical and horizontal spin, but unfortunately, that is all Eren knows. Upon hearing this, Tarhal questions him about what he believes he lacks compared to the other trainees. Eren responds with hard work, but the instructor corrects him sternly, stating that the right answer is talent. This correction is made because Eren lags behind others by more than just 2 or 3 years. The instructor sets a challenging task. Eren must master basic sword skills within a week to be immediately promoted to Class C. He is deeply concerned about the consequences of failure. In response, Tarhal reassures him that nothing will change and that he will continue practicing in Class F. However, he adds that if he can't even achieve this, it would be better for him to leave the academy. Eren replies that he will do his best, upon which the instructor comments that he should do well as he already knows about him being a hard worker. The days quickly start to pass as Eren trains with the guidance of his trainer. His improvement rate shocks even Tarhal, as he can't help but think the boy is completely different from how he looks. His progress makes it clear to the instructor that Eren does have a talent for the sword. With his evaluation test being tomorrow, Eren demonstrates what he has learned to Judith. She is a bit surprised to see him execute every move properly, but she gives him a thumbs up. On the day of the test, Instructor Rune Tarhal receives news about Eren's promotion to Class C, bringing a smile to his face.